In this tutorial I want to show you how I scale my images so they're suitable for panning, rotation and zooming effects in Pictures to Exe. And again, we're going to be basing this on the fact that we'll be creating a 4K resolution final Pictures to Exe show. So if you're producing a show that's of a smaller dimension, final output dimension, then your pictures that the scaling size that you'll scale your pictures to will naturally be smaller than what I'll be demonstrating here. So if we look at the file structure, the folders that we've created so far, we've got the air display, and I'll be putting the new images into this photos larger for animation. Okay, so and then from this I'll be demonstrating how to produce a Pictures to Exe show using these images to demonstrate zooms and pans and rotations and things like that. Okay, so that's going to be the destination folder for the images that I'll be creating. If we go back to Bridge, and we've still got our air display selection of images here within Bridge in our little collection, I'm going to first of all select the first image, and I've reshuffled them around a little bit just for a bit of interest here. Press the Shift key. All 10 images are now selected, just as we did do in a previous video. Control R opens the images into Camera Raw, Adobe Camera Raw. Okay. Now I've already processed all the images from the previous tutorial, so all the settings are just as I want them. So now all we need to do is select one image, Control A to select them all, making sure that the workflow options is still sRGB, 8 bits per channel, 72 pixels per inch, but that doesn't really matter. So all of the images will be sent to Photoshop with these attributes applied, which is suitable for JPEG saving and Pictures to Exe to show them. So I'm going to press Open Images. This will take a while, so I'll come back once it's done. Okay, so now all 10 images have now been loaded into Photoshop, and if we go to Window, we can see the images, 10 images listed there, and along the top here on the tabs of the images. Now I'm going to work on this first image. So as before, the first thing you do is just check to make sure there's no blemishes or things that we need to just correct within the image. So since there's nothing to be done here, the next thing is to crop the image. And again, this needs to be done to each image individually, because the cropping determines the composition of the image. But in this case, I've set the crop to a ratio, 16:9, 16 across by 9 upwards, first of all. So that is the crop ratio that I'm going to apply. This, if we look at the pixel dimensions of the original image, 8688 pixels across, I'm just going to crop this, and again it's just the shape of the crop that I'm applying here. Okay, I'm not cropping it to a set of pixel dimensions, so I'm using that ratio crop for a start. So we're going to get the correct shape of image, 16 across by 9. You can see that the pixel dimensions has dropped a bit, but we're still not down to the number that we will need for the Pictures to Exe show. Because this is a 4K show, you can think of the pixel dimensions across is virtually 4,000. It's 3,840, but it's virtually 4,000 across that we're aiming at, but we're wanting to make these pictures about a third to half size again larger. So if you're thinking that the largest size, half again, that's like 6,000 pixels we're aiming for across the image. So from now on, we can save the rest of the work as a action. So I'm going to create a new action. Go to the Actions panel here, and I'll create a new action. Okay, demo enlarged. I'll just call it demo enlarged for this particular action. Okay, so everything that I now do will be recorded. You can see the record button is selected there, highlighted. So I want to size this to about a half size again to 4K, which I've determined is worked out in my head. It's about 6,000 pixels across. Now we can do that by going to Image, Image Size, making sure the resample is selected and automatic, so this provides the best method of interpolating the resulting pixels. We're actually getting rid of pixels but blending one pixel into another as well. It's a very clever way of resizing an image. So leave that automatic. We can now put in the width, which we wish to put to 6,000. The height automatically adjusts itself because of this link between the two. So the height will actually end up at 3,375. Okay, so this image, the resulting image, will be half the size again of what we would need to fill the frame of a 4K monitor. Okay, so it'll give us a bit of wiggle room to create our pans and zooms and rotates without losing quality. Okay, and if we check our info panel, there you can see it's gone to 6,000 pixels across. Okay, and 3,375 vertical. So now we can just zoom into 100%. We can apply our filter. If we apply the sharpen, smart sharpen, it'll actually fill the frame anyhow. So there we go. So these are the settings that I used previously on the images that were sized to the correct size. Now because this has got more pixels, ideally we want to increase the amount of sharpening to maybe something like that. I'll put this up to 100 because we've got a lot more pixels there now. Okay, so to get the same sharpening effect with more pixels, you need a slightly greater amount of sharpening. I'm going to say OK on that. Okay, and that has been recorded as an action. We can now, I'll just back to full frame. I'm not going to put a border around it. There's no need to put borders because we will be usually looking in the central areas. If it's a zoom or a pan, we'll be just looking at one part of the image as it pans to the next part. Okay, so it's pointless having a border around it. So now we need to save it. File, save it. Well, it's going to save as anyhow. Okay, so I'll just, that should have been save as, but it's going to save as anyhow. Display. Photos larger for animation. In fact, I'll just cancel that because we're doing an action here. So I'll go to File, Save As. Okay, it's probably going to do exactly the same thing, but I don't want any little errors creeping in here. Photos larger for animation. I'll leave the file name as it is. You can see the color space there. Save. Maximum quality. OK. Close the image. Stop the action. Okay, so now we're into the next image. So again to our crop tool, we have our ratio selected, and if we check the info panel, you can see the pixel dimensions. We can crop to something like that maybe. Enter. The pixel dimensions are 6,075 here. Now if we run the action, which is still larger than what we're aiming for, demo enlarged, it ran the action and it saved it there. So this is in Windows Explorer, File Explorer. You can see it's added it to our destination folder. So we just keep on doing that in Photoshop for all the rest of the images. It will populate the folder. We'll go back to Bridge, do the next set of images, so that eventually that folder becomes filled with larger images ready for our pictures to actually show.